Hey everybody, just wanted to give you all a little update on the Flying Pumpkin M10. I had a little problem where this portion of the piston was making contact with the cylinder head. And so I had relieved the area and then wanted to double check and make sure that I had the proper amount of clearance. So I put the head on with no head gasket at all, just so that way if I have clearance with no head gasket, whenever I put the head gasket on, I will have an additional 27 thousandths worth of clearance there. Anyway, I had set the head down, hooked up the timing chain assembly and everything, and went ahead and I put clay on the piston to see how much clearance I had. Now this was with no head gasket, and as you can see right there, where it was at its tightest, I now have probably about 40 thousandths worth of clearance. Once I put the head gasket on there, it'll give me an additional 27 thousandths clearance. Now my intake valve had no issues. I had plenty of clearance, had more than 120 thousandths. The exhaust side is a different story, so I am very glad that I decided to clay this. As you can see, come on, clear up. There is zero clearance for the exhaust valve. On your exhaust side, you typically want to have 100 thousandths minimum clearance. On the intake side, you can get away with a little bit less than that just because there's a little bit less heat associated with the intake side. And you can see that the valve just kissed the piston whenever I rotated it over. I didn't feel any resistance, but it's because it just barely rubbed it. So I looked at all my valves, made sure I didn't have anything bent, and the engine probably would have started and probably would have ran for a little bit, but the first time I get some RPM in it, it would have bent all the exhaust valves and I would have had an engine with zero compression and scratching my head trying to figure out what the heck happened. So what I'm probably going to do in this scenario is actually modify the piston to get my additional clearance. I don't want to go with a thicker head gasket because that's where I'm getting my compression from. But I do have to have that clearance. So there it is. Just the reason why it's very important to check your clearances. One of the easy ways to get an actual physical measurement is clay. Now this is just regular good old clay. You can buy it, Walmart or wherever. And what you do is you put it on your piston, make sure your piston's nice and clean, and the clay will kind of tack to the piston. Then whenever you go to your cylinder head, spray some WD-40 on your cylinder head. It'll keep the clay from sticking on your cylinder head. And so that way you can take a razor blade and just cut slices in it wherever you want to see where your thickness is. And just use your razor blade to scrape away the excessive amount of clay. And that's how you get some physical readings of what's going on in your combustion chamber. All right, later guys.